Hey guys, how's it going? This is Dilmer again and welcome back to my channel. So I just received a message from one of my subscribers and the question was, Dilmer, where should I be pushing my indie games to? What platforms are available? Which ones are, a low cost versus a high cost? And that's basically what I want to talk about in this video, is basically walk you through some of the platforms that I have actually, launched my games under, and tell you what the cost is, what the revenue sharing is, and basically, all the aspects of the platform. So I want to start with saying that if you're making games, you want to make it as a career, and you want to try to target as many platforms as you can. And if you're using a game engine like Unreal or a game engine like Unity, the engines themselves give you a lot of options for for marketplaces or for platforms. So if you're using Unity, which is what I'm using right now, it's really easy to actually convert one of your games to a specific platform. So it's as easy as you basically selecting a build option and then telling the engine that you want to export your game to that platform. There's actually more than that, because you actually have to customize your game to the platform that you want to target. But that on itself it's actually a different video. I want to focus on making sure that that if you're gonna be releasing a game, make sure that you're thinking ahead of time for what platforms to consider. I personally want to consider and like to consider Apple. I also consider Google Play. And then I also been doing a lot of things in Steam ever since they opened up for the marketplace, where you actually don't need to be greenlit to release your game in that platform anymore. There's also other platforms, of course, like Magic Leap, which is fairly new. And there's also other platforms like the consoles. So if you want to do Xbox, or if you want to do PlayStation. So as far as the cost of entrance on all these platforms, they all differ. And like for Apple, they charge you about $99 per year, and then you basically have to renew that license every year. The cool thing with Apple is that it used to be that you had to pay a fee for macOS and also a fee for iOS, and now they have actually combined those two fees into one. So if you want your game to be target for, let's say that you want it for an iPhone, you want it for an iPad, you also want to have it in for macOS, it's actually the same cost for to be able to publish to those platforms. So the other thing that is really cool is now you have iOS, which you can also do the Apple TV. So every time I'm working on a game, I'm always thinking about, okay, how can I actually publish this on iOS, on Google Play, on the Apple TV, and also on consoles if I can. So be thinking about that, because that's actually really helpful. The cost of entrance is pretty low, and if you're looking for a cheaper option, you can also do the Google Play. Google Play is actually about $25 per year, and you have to renew the license every year, just like you have to do in iOS. The cool thing with Google Play is that you can actually release your game to many different devices. There are so many Android devices. We actually makes that a little bit difficult, because you have to test those devices, and of course you don't have all those devices to test with, so you have to be considering that. And on the iOS side, they're getting to that point. I mean, you have so many different versions of iPhones, you have so many different versions of the iPad. Then you have to consider, if you're doing a desktop type application like macOS, you got to consider all the different versions of macOS that you may want to target. The same thing with the Apple TV. So just be very cautious about when you want to release to multiple platforms, because it's not only the cost but also the time that you're gonna have to test with. So the other things that I wanted to mention was, okay, if you want to target to a console, what is the cost? What is what is actually required to get into the console world? And for me, what I had to do to get into the console world is I actually needed a company register. So make sure that you have a company register and you have some history with some of the games. Don't jump into the console world by just saying that you're gonna do it and don't even have a company register. Because for me, what actually worked was, I registered my business, I had a few games already released, and then I approached, Xbox, I approached PlayStation, I got approved as a developer, and it was actually a lot easier to do it that way than it wouldn't be without having all that history, having a business register. And as far as the cost is a little bit higher, because you have to consider the cost of the actual devices themselves. The Xbox platform has a really cool plan that you can do, a program that you can do where it's called the Xbox ID, and Xbox ID is actually giving Xboxes to indie developers at no cost, with the requirement that you have to release a game in their platform. I know PlayStation has done things like that in the past. They did something like that with me at some point, but just make sure that you're researching, make sure that you're emailing them, and start filling out the application form, have your business registered, and then make sure that you have few games released before you get into console development. And lastly, I mentioned a little bit of Magic Leap. Magic Leap hasn't actually opened up for the public, and it's very early to tell how much it's going to cost. I know that the development kit for a Magic Leap developer is about $2,500, which is a little bit pricey. And recently they opened up a new program for independent creators where they're offering $20,000 to $500,000 on funding for your game. So that includes devices that you might be able to get through that program. So make sure that you're looking at that. And as far as like the revenue sharing, for most of these platforms, it's always 30% for the most part. So 30% is the platform, what they're gonna take, and then 70% is what you're gonna take. It might differ on some of these, some of these platforms, specifically for mobile versus console. The console world's a little bit different. You're gonna have to, you might get an account manager assigned to you, and they will work that out with you. So I signed an NDA, so I can't really give you enough information about the console because I'm under contract, but just fill out a form and basically get your company registered, get everything going, and then you'll be able to get more information about that. I also didn't mention Steam, but Steam is basically, it's a little bit different because the cost of entrance is actually $100 per seat, which means that for every game that you're gonna release in their platform, they're gonna charge you $100. But once you reach $1,500, they're gonna give you those $100 back, so which is really great. The other thing is that you're gonna have to pay the same amount of revenue sharing that I mentioned on the other platforms. It's gonna be 30% for Steam and then 70% for you. So that's really all I wanted to talk to you about today. If you guys have any questions, let me know through the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video. Thank you guys.